Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. So, it's a start of a new episode, and that means it is time for the dailies right now. So, let me get this taken care of. So, since I am here at the tailor shop, I will get the clothing loaded onto the vehicle. So, get the two containers first. Or two pallets of clothing. Get that over. It's obviously going to tip the trailer even further at this point. So I think that's the full tip amount, and we're going to be there for several days, certainly through the end of the year. Oops. A little bit lower. Get that up. And move that over. So, got some other work for my other farmhand job today. So definitely want to go ahead and be as efficient as I can here. But obviously, you know, we need to make sure that if we've got stuff, we take care of it. And again, like things like this, I could load a few days later and just do a bunch, and you know, maybe that's the most efficient thing as I think about it, because if I can get two, and well, I can't get two in the corner, so I don't know that it matters. It's probably fine, because I was like, well, I can let it fill up and then it'll keep spitting things out, but I still can't get things from the other side. Alright, well, we will quickly check, that's the word I want. We will quickly check production. We're running out of cotton, so I'm not aware of any cotton stores that we have. I don't know that there's a way to tell, like, what buildings I have. Because, yeah, I mean, there's cotton over here. These are all the harvesters. Let's see. So, like, if I get rid of all the vehicles, tip stations, animals, what about others? I don't know what others is, but because I don't know if they're considered loading stations, so let's see. Because see, like right now, those bale stores are not here. So that's not what I want. Let's see, is it tip stations? Yes, so it's tip stations. So I don't want loading stations and productions. So I've got a silo. Because at best, I'm assuming there might be a cotton storage thing. These are all just the town ones here. And grain, square bale, square bale, square bale. So yeah, I'm not seeing anything, so we'll turn everything back on so that we can get to things. Alright, so I let Nav know, just so he's aware that at least it's been checked. But let's look at everything else. Things are running there. Alright, now he's got butter running. So there is some milk, but it might be worth... Let's see where this dairy is. Alright, the dairy is that way, somewhere. Okay, I see. So that is where we have that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run up to the cow barn. And we're going to grab the milk. So obviously this is a new one here for me. So he's got a few things going on here, and these are still his fields as far as I understand them. So yeah, this is where the bakery is, where it's making cakes and this and that. Well, this is a fancy trailer. I mean, look at all the lights. So this is pretty slick. So I'm going to get over here, but yeah, the challenge is cotton. And yeah, like you can see this cotton farm, which I don't think is his. Yeah, looks like it's probably purple. But cotton's not ready yet, which should make sense because I think cotton is ready in October or whatever at Lomaric's farm, so I assume that's kind of the same thing. It's just because I think they all use the same geo info. Alright, so this is the dealer, the barn is over there. It's just again a matter of can I easily get any milk here. There's not a whole lot that I do to get into this farm, so I'm a little like, where do I go? But I think this will work. And so I would think the milk is over here, because that sure looks like a milk storage thing. So let's see. Yep, there we go. So we'll go ahead, we'll grab this, and we'll move it down to his dairy so that everything is good to go. So that's actually not that much milk. So couldn't even fill the tanker. Not quite sure what the capacity on this is, but it's higher than 50,000, which I think was what the capacity was on the typical tanker in FSN. So, you know, that gives us a little bit extra. Seems like 60 is too low, so maybe it's 80, but no, I don't know. I guess we'll not know until we know. I mean, I suppose I could look at the piece of equipment, but doesn't really matter. The goal is to get the work done. But I think this should then get me in a good spot for the productions, because this would be the only thing I need to feed other than the TMR mixer, which is kind of a semi-regular. Oh boy. You know, I knew it. I knew it was gonna happen. So I'm gonna try to just use my tractor here that we had nearby. Just try to give it a little nudge and use FSN physics, or FS physics to fix this. Problem is it's so darn loaded. Yeah, I was just trying to be in a hurry, and this is, you know, the problem that then happens is you've got... Alright, thank goodness. Not terribly long, but I'm like, you know, I'm trying to be like, ooh, I want to get going so I can get to what I know will be a long job. And instead I spend more time. Like, I would have been at the dairy, I would have already dumped the milk, I would have been on to the next thing. Now I'm still taking this tractor back, connecting it to this windrower and all, which is interesting with it sitting in here in the harvested cotton field, but you know, it's what we've got. So I'm just gonna pop this back in here. There we go. Turn that off. Jump back into the truck. And now we'll get it there. Can't take me anywhere, at least not in a really lit up truck in the middle of the night. Oi, oi, oi. But, you know, this will get us a good amount of milk into the dairy, because that should, because I assume to get it into the dairy I can place it in here. Let's see. So I want to go that way and get over the trigger point, because that is what it was lighting up. So there we go. And we start overloading the milk. Let's just make sure. Yep. So now we're in the green. So we'll just get the rest in here, and it'll slowly go up. And again, he can make himself some butter. In the meantime, alright, TMR's in good shape. Alright, so again, we'll leave that there. Turn off the lights. Alright, so there's this other truck that got put there that kind of makes it hard to see this one on the map. So I'm not quite sure. I wonder if the TMR mixer is full, but like the hay is full, but all the hay I have is still like laying around. You know, because part of the thing could be like, well, maybe Nav came in and topped some things off on his own. But let me move the pigs while we're talking through things there. So we're good there. But you can see all the bales are still laying around, and it was telling me it was 148,300 liters. So I have to just check that out and make sure, because yeah, what may be happening is it just may be full in the TMR mixer. All right, so I can do that. And then I want to sell. So again, we get our 28,000. Now it does look like he did something, because we had like 300 some thousand before, but obviously that's gone now. So going back to kind of at the tail end of the conversation was, like, this is the part that, you know, it's not that I can't figure it out entirely, because, you know, I can go in here and I can see, for example, you know, so I can see he did a miscellaneous 300,000. I'm guessing that means he transferred $300,000 out. So per the discussion we were having at the end of the last episode of stay farmhand, become farm manager, what that looks like, and what I can and cannot do, like, because this isn't my farm, like, I don't know. I mean, I can ask him and he might be willing to share or whatever, but you know, that can be difficult every time. And then, you know, more than likely, like, I'll see this, I'll ask him, then it'll be the next episode. It would be harder to discern, but some of this is how important is it versus having variety and so forth. So those are the decisions. Okay, so I'm not close enough on the trailer yet to the trigger. Sometimes I get that. There we go. Now we have the trailer, so we can sell. And again, get ourselves the other amount. So, as started to mention last time, like pretty much every episode I'll be asking the question, and for people to put in comments. There's two choices I have. Remain a farmhand for the foreseeable future, possibly even forever in the system here, or go the farm manager route. And really, the benefit of farmhand is I get to be in a lot of different places. I get to do a lot of different jobs. Like, I'm not going to have a farm like this, I assure you. So, alright, so no capacity for spare hay. So total mixed ration, let's see. If I go back to the TMR, oh, he just has it inactive. So I guess he's just decided Yeah, I'm not sure what he decided, but it is inactive. So next thing I always tend to do is the eggs, so I'm going to run over and work on that, and I'll see you when I'm done with that. Alright, so the eggs are done. A little bit extra. Each house had 3 pallets today, so... Alright, so I'm going to go get TMR, because we're going to need more than 19,000. Alright, again, I'm doing the stupid hurry thing, and I ran into the fence, so this is dumb. Alright, so we still have straw out on the field. So, if I have time at some point, I'm sure I can do that. But again, I need to focus on Lomaric's farm first, because he's the one that's kind of given me the work to begin with. And, you know, I want to be kind of loyal to what my main employment is. Nav is still kind of ephemeral, I guess. That, you know, it's when he has something and he doesn't have as constant a stream of things as Lomaric does. So I definitely have regular work there. You know, we've got a schedule that I look at. He updates it. You know, there's obviously things going on. But, you know, we can get 4 trailers out of this TMR mixer before we consume the TMR that's already been created. So I certainly understand to some degree why he's gone ahead and turned it off, because I know he uses the straw in his biomass plant too. I mean, he certainly, I think, has plenty, but I do understand how there may be some desire to maybe do something a little different. Alright, so there we go. We'll feed the cows, then they'll obviously keep producing that milk we just took away. They're all very tired. The one in the back just flopped down. I mean, it is 2:30 in the morning, so they probably would normally be sleeping now. So I can't fault them for that, that's for sure. Alright, so we got that. So, chickens are still doing okay. Pigs are doing okay. Probably tomorrow, the next day, we'll feed all of them. Cows are in between all the time, so they're tricky to find. But yeah, no milk, but they're fully productive. And then again, we've got this. We've got chaff. Alright, I think I'm good for today then. So the only piece I was going to check, just so I know what's happening, is where we are here. So sorghum is ready to be harvested, as is cotton. So I think what we could do, and what we may hear from him, is go ahead and harvest up some cotton and go from there. So let's see, he's got these fields. So yeah, 21. Now at 21 we know there wasn't any active cotton, so he planted, I think, a smaller set of fields. So yeah, this is just sitting there as harvested. So all he's got left is this. It looks like he's doing something, or had done something with the corn. But yeah, for now that's it. We may come back here later today and do some more work. Alright, so 6:36. It's harvest day. We can harvest oats. Oats are down here. Oats are in fact ready. The challenge, however, is we've got a rain icon. So let's see what this looks like. So the good news is it looks like we have till noon. So as long as I can stay focused, which I think I can, then we'll be in good shape. So here we go. There is a harvester. Looks like it's in good shape. Looking at his list, there's another one somewhere. I just don't know exactly where, but we'll try to remember that this is here. And so at this point, we are going down to the field that was the start of where we were at when we started here in FOC working for Lomaric. The first job he gave us on that farm was mulching and plowing that field. So the cotton is doing its thing. I do want to see. It is at the second stage of fertilization, so I don't know if he came in and sprayed or did whatever, but cotton is good to go. So, as I said, you know, I think he's giving me jobs that he would prefer, obviously, I do, and then he does jobs he prefers to do. So I'm sure spraying is super fast. He can come in for a little bit and do that. I love when the server does this, as it's doing. I am fully backed out. It's a pretty big header. But I'm thinking this shouldn't be too terribly bad. You know, what I'm going to need to do is obviously get some trucks down here, I think. And then, you know, we'll just keep going. So, probably worth somewhat staging. So I'm saying somewhat staging because I think if I can have two trucks that have a good trailer on them. Alright, I'm off the gas. I've been off the gas. But if I can have two trucks, I just don't know that I can get across both fields, so it becomes that same type of thing. A little bit of a challenge again in this, not just jumping into the lag situation. So as soon as I see it, you know, I'm kind of trained from the situation in FSN where I just know, hey, I back off. Alright, so I'm gonna drop this. Probably I'll put this over here. I'm second guessing because this might be a good place for the truck, but I can put the truck right in front of where I'm at. So I'm gonna drop this off while I now hop back here. So yeah, so we've got that truck and that truck. So I think these are those same trailers, the Radions and whatever, because that same Vehiculo Longo thing is on the back as we have at Nav's farm. It's just obviously his trailer color is different, but that should mean I've got a trailer capacity here of 150,000. So I'm going to move this one and the one that's in the silo, because there used to be a way to turn off that Jake brake on the one thing, so that's what I was looking for to try to save our ears, but this truck maybe doesn't have it, or because I don't recall there being a kind of a double. Sorry, I meant to hit F1 to hide the menu, instead I hit escape, and then obviously we got to deal with the sound a bit because the input obviously stopped. Come on, don't be doing this to me. So, we'll get this over, but I think, you know, we'll be able to put one here, but then what I'll do is I'll just bring the second one and leave it nearby, because what I don't know is, can I run across the field? Because if I can run across both, I'll just put a truck at each end, and we'll go from there. But at this point, you know, I can go ahead here. grab this truck. It's a little low on fuel, so I'm gonna stop and fuel them up right here. Back off a little bit so we don't have too much. Now, my liquid fert is gone too, so maybe he used it to fertilize the field with the sprayer. You know what, I just don't know. Okay, we are filling up here. You can see our green line going. I always forget, sometimes it's a little confusing. But I'm going to get this truck over by the field and then jump in the harvester and start getting ready for that. So I'll see you in a bit. Alright, so I've left the truck out here just from the standpoint of it gives me some room to maneuver here. Just trying to set a line. So we'll get ourselves back here. But like here, other than when I get to the trees, and even then I might have enough room. Like I may not have to do anything with headlands on this field. So that's what I'm trying to ultimately figure out. So let's move everything over. Get our lines set. I need to unfold so that I can be ready to go, and then I can go ahead. He didn't say anything about dropping straw, so I am going to do this, and I am doing the normal suggestion that I've learned of doing an extra ½ meter on the header because that works, is what I've been told. So let's see. Alright, we grab that because it was still turning a little bit. But at this point, we're going to get moving, and we're just going to see how far we can get before we fill up. Because oats are relatively prolific on their yield, so it's not unheard of that we're going to do things. So I am a little bit curious, just before I forget. So there's been an updated work list that we've gotten from Lomaric. So if you take a look here, this is what I'm curious about. Plow 18 and 19. We also have the fields that we're working with now. 18 and 19 is not something we've been using. So, and he's kind of guaranteeing that 18 and 19 are good versus saying, hey, plow field 41 and 42 again. Now those are optional, but I just don't know if he's got some plans that he wants to go into. You know, and there's potentially a little bit of danger of, you know, maybe he's expanding a bit, thinking, well, you know, if you're here and you're doing this work the way you are, you know, we can grow. But we haven't had a discussion about it, and there are definitely things that, as I said, I'm struggling to keep up with the other things I enjoy doing. So, you know, I don't know that I'll always be able to fully complete the work of a given day. So I may have spoiled him a bit, set a bad precedent, whatever you want to call it. You know, because I just may not have that many hours every time that I'm going to devote to things here. Certainly, these first cycles through, all of this is new. Like, how long is this really going to take? I don't think this is as large as some of the other harvests I had, for example, but we'll see. So, I mean, the thing is, like, I did that soybean harvest for Schwag on fields 13 and 14 for him that took, whatever it was, 7-8 hours. I mean, it was a long time. I'm hoping that's not what I'm looking at here, but I could be. You know, because again, the thing is, like with soybeans, there is not as much yield on soybeans, so I don't have to unload and do it that often there, where grains tend to be higher yielding than soybeans. Okay, so there's the field break. We were obviously a little bit before 50%, But if we look at the map, like, it's swooped out here, and now we have less. Like, you know, as this goes out, this comes in, if that makes sense. So it's really going to be a question of, can I make it to the end of the row or not? Because there's no place in between these fields. I forgot how little space there was. It looks like we may also not have quite a perfect measure here, because it looks like there's some damaged crop there, which means we're going to get a tiny bit less yield, because whoever was working on 39 or whatever was happening, they took out a little bit of oats. So we might lose 50 liters or something, and at this point that might be just enough to get us to the end of the field, and then next time we won't. I mean, even if it is the case, I suppose, you know, if I got to move trucks a little bit here and there, I can do that. See, but like right now, we're losing 25% of a header of oats for a good 15 meters or something. So that isn't insubstantial. It's going to be close, I will tell you that. It's going to be really close. You know, we're to 20%. We've got that to go. If we look at the map, I mean, we've made this progress. You know, obviously it's showing these as not, you know, they were mulched, but their state didn't change because they were run over. So they're technically not harvested because there weren't any crops there to harvest. So you'll run into those quirks with Farming Simulator at times when you do that. So I'm just trying to keep an eye on the count. I think we're not going to make it, because that is still a long way for 10%, in my opinion. We're going to get really, really close, but that's unfortunate, because kind of what that means is I'm going to have to jump in trucks and move, and I'm going to have to keep playing with the harvester. But yeah, there's no way, because we're at 99, and I think it goes to 16,500. No, it doesn't even go that far, so let me stop this, back up. So, okay. So we cannot make it, but we also cannot do things in, you know, we cannot place a truck in between. So I've got that little challenge. So I'm going to grab this one. But basically we'll still keep a truck toward each end, but we're going to have to keep jumping in a truck and moving a little bit. So yeah, whoever's up there, well, in that case for 40 it looks like, no, because we're purple and that's blue. So I think that's a different farm. This is the one thing I don't like about Farming Simulator, is they do have things that are really close in color, and you therefore can't tell, but like 39 up here is FOC owned. So I'm trying really hard not to talk when the truck is slowing down so that I can cut that out. I'm sure I'll be hit or miss on how that's going to work, but that's going to be my attempt anyway. So let's see, we'll get that going. Gonna have to lift that. Now I probably won't run as full in the future, because that way I can just leave the harvester, especially if I've got the pipe out. Then I don't have to do anything, but in this case where I've got to turn anyway, I'd prefer to not kind of cut things, because here the header will... Okay, I guess I would have made it. I mean, I thought I should make it, but I was getting uncomfortably close to the crop, and I'm like, I don't understand here. So now I go down, and it may grab some, it may not. It doesn't look like it did. But as you can see, we're gonna... I don't know that we'll get 1,000 liters off before we hit the end of the field, but it's not an insubstantial amount. Right, and here it may be a bit more challenging to turn around, so I may end up running some sort of headland eventually. but right now I'm okay, so I'm just gonna get moving along here as quick as I can. And this should swing back pretty... Come on, is this like really that far? Alright, I guess I'm wrong about how fast it moves. Well, we'll see. This, maybe this extra header width is not workable here. Alright, it is not. So I am going to shrink this back, but I think I need to move it over a little bit so that I get my crop properly. So in this case, the extra half meter didn't work. So it's interesting because, you know, they had told me that obviously, and for some reason it's not here. You know, I could probably do a tiny bit extra, but obviously it's not an extra half meter. And I am still set on meters, so it's not that I was estimating or something at feet, it just isn't working. So yeah, what will end up happening now is we'll stop even further short of the edge of the field than we did here on the other end, and so we're basically going to be in a couple diagonal rows. So we're going to kind of keep pulling back, and you know, we'll just have to do what we do with the trucks. But basically we're slightly larger than we should be or can be. And what I may do at the other end is I may expand it a bit, like maybe 0.2 meters, because every little bit helps, obviously, and I might be able to keep myself down, because, you know, at half a meter, basically, I think this is a 16 meter header is what it was at, and I think it was like 15.8. 15.6, as you saw. So if I'm doing half a meter, that basically means 30 rows, and I will have one extra pass in that time. And really, I mean, at any point, it's one extra pass, because as soon as I start losing half a meter, if I need that at the field edge, I'm going to need that. So... But it really is like once I get to 30 rows that I start running into, well, I might need a second pass. It's certainly feasible that this field has 30 rows. These fields are, I think any fields on FS tend to be deceptively big. You start to kind of understand, obviously, if you have your own farm, you learn your fields. Unless you have a ton of them, but you know, even if you do, you kind of understand what's going on and so forth. So, you know, we're not at the field boundary, but now we're at 50, so you can see where I think we were closer to that line coming across. See, I mean, I keep hemming and hawing of, do I have 30? Because I just don't know that it's worth adjusting and then potentially still running short and having to move over, because then it's 6 1/2 dozen of the other. And until I was here in FOC, I've never heard that because of the extra accuracy with the GPS, you can do that half meter. So in some cases, I had been told it could be up to a meter, which seems like a lot. But so it sounds like with various headers, you kind of have to test it and figure out what might work. But at this point, it's hard to tell. I probably could have seen, because there's going to be a little bit of slowness, just trying to be careful. I mean, what I don't want to do, again, is rush, run over crops, lose any yield that we don't need to. And then, you know, create a problem there that is unnecessary. So our truck has come into view. We're close enough that that has come out of the trees. the roll of the land. We can't see the other truck. It's below the horizon. But this, for me, is the first harvest on this set of fields, because again, we had plowed and then planted this in before winter last year in preparation to be able to do this first day of harvest, because the oats grow pretty quickly, and so even though they were kind of dormant over the winter months, they're still able to pop here in the first harvest window for the crops. So that was kind of what Lomaric was looking to do. Because yeah, I'm almost thinking we're like 20-25 across is my wild estimate. And keep in mind, like, this is the one I set the line on, so obviously there's 2 here, but so we always have to kind of add 1 to what we think we have, because the other issue you run into is obviously you've got the 0 line. And so, you know, when you're on 1, you really are on the 2nd row. But in this case, when we're on 1, we're going to be on the 3rd row. Alright, so I'm going to stop there. You know, and trucks are faster than harvesters, so my belief is it is better to move the trucks around than it is to move the harvester. You know, obviously if you've got multiple people working, you know, someone can drive the truck, someone can drive the harvester, you can keep the harvester moving all the time. I mean, there'd be a little bit of a challenge, but again, with good planning and good coordination, kind of forgot not talking over the slowdown. But I hadn't gotten that fast, so it wasn't that terribly loud when it was slowing me down. But, with good coordination, like if you made sure before I got to the end of the line here, for example, you know, I emptied, well, you'd still run into the issue going back the other way, because we can't make a full row before we're full. So I guess, yeah, that plan doesn't work. See, like in this case, we're obviously whatever capacity that was, and it probably was 200 or 300 liters, since you can see how quickly it grabs that. You know, it's going to let me get a tiny bit further in the field, because, you know, pretty much that half truck length or whatever it was, because obviously I emptied that into the truck already. Alright, so since I'm not dropping straw, I can probably, you know, I can turn a little faster, because when I have straw falling, I'm usually a little more careful to keep things straight, because obviously I don't want to have to keep adjusting at the end of every row with a baler to do something. So I think I'm just going to leave this the way it is, because I think the time to play with it and whatever, like, I just don't know that I'm ultimately going to end up with a lot. Like I said, other than people telling me that, and it's seeming to work a bit, although we did have to adjust, like, that's why I'm wondering. I mean, I think it works for a long time, but I think it was on Schwag's field, where at one point I did have like a tiny bit left, and I had to move the line over, so it might take 15 or 20 rows before you have a problem, but eventually I think that additive space catches up with you as well. So, or as long as the auto width is realistic, because I do have that header that I have in the VIP series that for whatever reason it isn't. It doesn't set that correctly. It sets it too wide, and then I've got to adjust it manually so that I don't have things left over. So it's almost like it builds in that extra half meter already into the auto width, figuring you're going to have GPS, but then it doesn't work for the same type of reason. So at this point, you know, this is what I've got for today right now. If I go back in and do some work on navs fields, and depending on timing and whatever, I may not, that will be another episode. You know, I certainly can share enough of a different harvest in a different location to get you 20-30 minutes, if not way more than that, because at this point my average episode length is pretty insane for FOC, but got a lot to say, just keeping me enthused. Things keep coming to mind, but at this point you can consider it a blessing and a curse, depending how you, or a blessing or a curse, depending how you look at it. At this point I've run out of things to talk to you about, so I am going to focus on the work, and I am going to step away. Again, at this point, I guess the last piece, so once again, my normal thing. I'm going to step away, but hey, I just thought of this. A few minutes before I got on here, the ending FSN videos posted out on YouTube and published. So I should say they published, they became public. So they were out there for the whole time I've been here in FOC, obviously. But the world now knows that FSN is over for me. And then in 4 days, they're going to see the first FOC episodes. So you're going to start to see things, and so basically the problem is there's going to be an overlap. So I just want people to be aware, because at this point, I think this is going to be episode 14, given that basically it's 2 or 3 episodes a week, depending on how the VIP series, the single-player stuff hits on the weekend. Sometimes, some weeks I get 3 days in every other day, some weeks I only get 2. But we're talking about nearly a month of time before you'll see this. And depending on how things go, I'm probably going to, be a month ahead anyway as I go. So what that means is what I'm asking you about now. I may or may not change my mind, but I think I've done a lot of time lapses, montages, whatever. I don't want to overdo certain things, and nobody was asking for them in my FSN series. I think they just figured the videos were long enough without that, and so people weren't like, oh, I need more oat field harvest. Please, please include a 5-minute time lapse or something. So I'm not going to do that, because there's work involved in giving you that as well, and I'm not sure that it's something that a whole lot of people are interested in. But if you are, the comments are the way you let me know, whether it's Discord or the here on the video, whatever. I certainly look, and at this point, I'm not a huge channel, so I look, and also, more importantly, try to respond to all the comments, at least acknowledging that I got them. So if you're dying to have extra footage and like, no, record it and speed it up or whatever, but I'd like to see more, let me know. But in this case, I'm just going to end this here, and I will see you next time.